Good evening. Happy New Year. It is January 5th, 2026. I got that right on the first try, January 5th, 2026. It is 6:30 p.m. We have our study session tonight, our first one of the new year. We have two items on our agenda tonight. We have amusement arcades and amusement centers, our licensing program for that. And our second agenda item tonight is the Wheat Ridge 2026 legislative agenda. So we will go to public comments as we always do for our to start our meetings and study sessions. Citizens may comment on anything on the agenda tonight for a study session. They'll have 3 minutes. We have the lights on the desk there. I don't believe we have anybody signed up to speak tonight. So we will go ahead and go right into agenda item number 1. Deputy City Manager, Mary Ann Schilling, will you please introduce this item?
I sure will. Start the year off with kind of a fun one. This is a bit of a relic from the past. It's a 1977 ordinance from when the city was just 8 years old that we think it's time to take another look at. So the main purpose of the amusement ordinance was for ensuring that amusement devices were not being used as gambling devices. And the reason that this is coming up for discussion right now is because of the upcoming Dave & Buster's that's going to be coming online over at Clear Creek Crossing. So when we're talking about amusement devices, we're talking about any device in which you insert a coin, a token, and that it can be used in the public as a game, entertainment, amusement, or test of skill. So when we're talking about that, we're usually talking about devices like pinball machines, claw machines, or pool tables. And the pool tables that have like the coins. So they don't include things like games of chance like slot machines. So currently there's 3 types of amusement categories. We have arcades, which is for 11 or more machines. We have amusement centers, which is 4 to 10, and amusement devices, which is 1 to 3. In total, we have about 50 to 60 that are licensed in 8 locations. And right now we have 1 that is of the 11 or more that is at the Bolero, and it has about 38 machines. We have 3 at the amusement centers, so that would be like Long Shots or Clancy's, places that already have liquor licenses. And then the ones that have 1 are, the example that we found really quickly was that we have a Pokemon game over at the King Soopers. So this is what we're talking about when we're talking about amusement devices. So since 1977, when we're talking, there's really been a proliferation of home gaming devices. The number of these amusement arcades have really dwindled, and a lot of them right now are more of like the family-oriented, like the Pokemon claw machine type things. So in addition to most of the venues, they're also typically at places that have liquor licenses. So we feel really good that with state gambling laws, liquor laws, and all of our local laws, that we have all the necessary tools to handle any potential unlawful acts that could occur at these locations. And so our police department has no issue with removing this ordinance. And moreover, we're in general, because we don't have any issues, we aren't inspecting the devices and we don't have these enforcement issues. So we feel really good about not creating a burden on our businesses to be paying this annual $60 license fee per machine when there really isn't an issue. So we are interested in removing this ordinance. So we'd like to open it up for any questions, and we have Mr. Dahl, our city attorney, here for any other questions that you may have.
Can I add to that,
Sure.
if you don't mind? We included the entire ordinance or that whole code section in the packet, and you'll notice that in section 117, it says the reasons for approval or denial, and those really do read as being kind of anachronistic or really out of date. The applicant, the manager, or either of them cannot have been convicted of a felony within the last 10 years. And again, think about King Soopers, has a Pokemon machine. Applying that, you can't have one within 1,000 feet of a school or another such location. It reads a lot like liquor licensing kind of restrictions. And of course, we have those already for where they really are needed. But that to me kind of underscores the fact that it has now become outdated. And if we were to try to apply this to the folks, or really apply the standards the way they're written, we'd be denying some licenses that I think comes a huge surprise to these businesses that are not in the business of gambling. they're in the business of entertainment, and things have changed, and we can regulate entertainment with the other tools that we have. So, questions, though?
Thank you. We'll go to questions from council. Councilor Larson.
Are how are the lottery vending machines at the grocery stores, how are they regulated?
Other than the state lottery laws, not by the city. We don't have a code section regulating the state lottery system. I don't think we'd be able to, not that I'm a advocate for statewide control and preemption as our home rule, but that's one, like driver's licenses, you really shouldn't have a different set of rules, for that. Or the drinking age, for example, you shouldn't have a different set of rules. And the state lottery system is pretty well regulated by the state government. So I would say it's not an arena that even if the city wanted to get involved, I think we wouldn't be able to.
Okay, thank you. And then, Mary Ann, you mentioned Dave and Buster's. This is not a topic that's really come up before. Can you tell us a little bit about what's planned out there?
Actually, I talked to our community development director ahead of this meeting to get a sense of how many machines they were looking for. She said that they haven't disclosed that, so we don't have a number that we're looking at specifically. I would say if any of us have been to a Dave & Buster's, we can say it would be somewhere 50, 100 machines we're looking at, and it's about $60. It is $60 per machine with the license that they would need to get.
Any other questions? Don't be shy. Going once. Okay. The staff is recommending council repeal Article, 9 of Chapter 11 of the Code of Laws.
Yep. And
So,
the consensus would be to direct us to bring forward an ordinance to do that.
Okay. So do we have a consensus to follow staff's recommendation on that? We do. Okay, fantastic. We will move on to item number 2, and that is the Wheat Ridge 2026 legislative agenda. Deputy City Manager Schilling?
Yeah, we have a presentation tonight from our senior management analyst, Cole Hayslip. So we'll get started.
All right, thank you, Marianne. So we are here tonight to talk about the 2026 Legislative Advocacy Program. And the agenda for tonight's presentation, we're going to talk about the Legislative Advocacy Program as a whole. Then we're going to take a look back at 2025, some of the positions that the city took on legislation and what the results of those bills were. We'll take a look at the 2025 legislative off-season and cover some of the work that the committee did there. And then we'll take a look forward toward 2026 and finish up with staff's recommendation. So to begin with, the Legislative Advocacy Program was something that was formed in late 2024 in anticipation of the 2025 legislative session. At the time, some of the reasoning for forming it was that there wasn't a formal process for the city to determine which bills it would take a position on, when it would adopt resolutions in support or in opposition, or to support amendments for a bill. And when CML was our primary source for this, there wasn't really an opportunity for the city to take more nuanced positions than those that CML was taking. So in response to those issues, council asked us to take a look at what we could do, and we proposed this legislative advocacy program. It is a 4-part program. It consists of the adoption of a legislative agenda. That's a high-level document which states across a variety of different focus areas, here's the types of bills that we would be likely to support, here's the types of bills that we would be likely to oppose. And that kind of sets the table for the city's lobbying throughout the legislative session. Also, as part of this program, we have a legislative committee. The committee is currently staffed by Councilor Rachel Holteen, who is the chair, Councilor Larson, who is the vice chair, and Councilor Okada is our new member on the legislative committee. The committee's job is to kind of weed through the 50 to 100 bills that are introduced in a legislative year that have an impact on the city of the Wheat Ridge, and try to pinpoint 3 to 5 of those bills for the adoption of an advocacy position resolution and for staff to engage in targeted lobbying efforts on those bills. And you can see those are the other 2 parts of the program. Those advocacy position resolutions, which you can anticipate coming to the dais later this year, are resolutions that will state we oppose or we support or we would like to amend this bill for X, Y, and Z reasons. Once the committee selects an advocacy position resolution to move forward to council, that's what tells staff to go ahead and start lobbying on that bill. The reason why we start lobbying on the bill then, rather than once the resolution is adopted by the council, is because these things move really quickly. A bill can be introduced on a Monday. The committee might be able to take a look at it on a Tuesday. They can say, this is really important. We need to get lobbying out there, and we're going to bring a resolution forward. Well, a lot of really important things can happen in the 2 to 3 to 4 weeks that it takes for a resolution to get to council's desk. So that's why it's important that we begin those lobbying efforts when the committee moves it forward. That is really the rundown of the legislative advocacy program. I want to move on now to talk about 2025 and some of the positions that the city took and what happened to those legislation. I'm not going to go into too much detail on these bills, just kind of cover the title and what happened to them. There's more details in your packet if you're curious about what these bills did and why the city took the positions that they did. So the first one was SB 25001, the Colorado Voting Rights Act. The city elected to oppose this bill, and it ended up passing and was adopted. HB 251272, construction defects in middle market housing. The city supported this bill and it passed. SB 2530, increased transportation mode choice and reduce emissions. The city supported this bill as well and it passed. HB 251220, the regulation of medical nutrition therapy. We opposed this bill and it was vetoed by the governor after it passed the legislature. HB 251300, workers' comp benefits and proof of entitlement. The city opposed this bill and it ended up getting passed. So that's just kind of a brief rundown of what happened during the 2025 legislative session. Moving on to the off season, which ran from May until just about now. Some of the work that the committee did was to make an effort to outreach to our boards, commissions, and committees here at the city. We've got several of those bodies, everything from Planning Commission to the Idea Committee. And the Legislative Committee made an effort to go out to each and one of those bodies, have a discussion about legislative advocacy with them, introduce the legislative advocacy program so that they were informed of what was going on, and ask them for feedback on the 2026 legislative agenda. We took that feedback, which was largely some minor tweaks here and there, and we incorporated that into the 2026 legislative agenda. And we also informed these bodies that there might be an opportunity for them and the legislative committee and staff to collaborate during the 2026 session if, for example, the city was to take a position on a bill related to zoning or land use issues, and we were to begin lobbying on that, we might go to some of our planning commission members and say, hey, we've got a letter that we're writing. If you guys wanted to sign on to that, that would be great. We feel like that would just make our voice a little bit louder and get more community members involved in the city's advocacy. So moving on to 2026 and our legislative advocacy program in the committee. So what the committee has been doing the last couple of meetings that they've had is to take a look at updates to our 2026 legislative agenda. And again, this is our high-level policy document that says these are the types of bills we would support, these are the types of bills we would probably oppose. And we made several changes to the legislative agenda. We expanded the scope of home rule to include governance in that. We updated the public safety section to reflect some city-initiated legislation that is currently being supported regarding the use of AVIS on the interstate highway system. That's a bill that we're currently working with CML and trying to find some legislators to get introduced in the 2026 legislative session. We also clarified the city's support for a competitive broadband market in the economic development focus area. We made it clear that we oppose state actions that increased an administrative burden on local businesses. And we also added a new section focused on special district and utilities. Also, what the legislative committee has done is establish some threshold criteria. Again, their job is to look at those 50 to 100 bills that impact the city and narrow that list down to about 3 to 5 for the adoption of an advocacy position resolution and lobbying. These threshold criteria help them do that. So if a bill is in alignment with these threshold criteria, then it can be considered to be one of those 3 to 5. If it's not in alignment, it doesn't get considered. So these criteria are alignment with the city's legislative agenda, our high-level policy document, how much of an impact that bill has on the city of Wheat Ridge, and community consensus as determined by the city's elected officials. Also, to help them whittle down that list of 50 to 100 to 3 to 5, they adopted some priority areas. And what these say for them is that if a bill relates to housing, public safety, utility governance, or transportation, that's something that we might pay special attention to in a bill that would be more likely than others to land in that 3 to 5 bills that we focus on. Next steps for the legislative committee, they're going to start having bi-weekly meetings on January 13th, 2026, and that'll continue throughout the legislative session, which ends in May. The committee, again, will be reviewing those bills that impact the city of Wheat Ridge, and they're going to be selecting those 3 to 5 priority bills for council's consideration. And tonight, what we are asking for the council to consider is reaching consensus to consider adopting the 2026 legislative agenda at a future meeting. So staff would be happy to answer any questions about the program as a whole, or the changes, or any of the details that are currently in the legislative agenda. But for now, I'll turn it over to our mayor.
All right. Do we have questions from council? Councilor Olteen.
Thank you. I'm just going to start with a quick comment, just in case you were looking at the packet. The table of contents page does not actually line up with the issue. So I just wanted to make note, ignore the table of contents. It's missing a section and it's out of order. So I just making note of that, because I was like, wait a minute, we don't have the right version up here, but.
Yes,
yeah.
one quick note on that. We're aware of the table of contents issue. We wanted to make sure we got this document in front of you now. That way, if you reach consensus tonight, you could consider adopting it in early February. And that aligns well with some of the actions that take place during the legislative session. But some of those changes in the document, like the table of contents, require work from our graphic design team. And that takes a little bit longer than we were able to get done in time for this meeting. So that's why there are some few things like that. And it may look a little strange in some areas, but rest assured, when we get to that February 2nd meeting, all those tweaks will have been made. We'll have a solid table of contents for you.
And since I've got the mic, I'll just make mention. First of all, I just want to recognize Cole. Like, we are so lucky and fortunate to have someone with the skills and just, I think, intellectual curiosity about this work. It makes the meetings go really smoothly. And a couple of things that we've really ironed out since we jumped into the legislative session last year, trying to figure out how and what we were doing while the session was going, is just having a better system for tracking the bills. Really using those threshold criteria is incredibly important. As Cole mentioned, CML does the lion's share of the lobbying for, its member constituencies, which is cities and towns across the state. This really gives us an opportunity for times where either maybe we're not in direct alignment, or if there's amendments that we think we would particularly benefit from. And so that impact on the city of Wheat Ridge is really actually our, I would say, our strongest threshold criteria. And it has really helped us make decisions. I mean, there's a lot of exciting bills that have some impact, but really drilling down on how much impact is this going to have on the city can help inform how much work we're going to do. And something I don't think Cole, I just got off a plane and my ears are still a little janky. One of the things that we really try and just contemplate is not just what action we're taking, but to what extent we're taking action. So we talked about sort of tiering our action taking, which could be as simple as just sending a note to our representatives on our position. It could escalate up into sending, notes to all of the people on the various committees that have bills touching. And then it can really get to that highest tier, which is a real hands-on, in which Dan's been really good about giving testimony, like we're actually really in the messy business of the bill itself. So we do treat the bills according to what their impact is and how much impact we think we can have. But I just really want to recognize Cole is a gift to our committee work, and we are off to a good start this year. So would welcome any thoughts, suggestions, questions from folks.
Counselor Snell.
Not a question. I really just wanted to add, having Counselor Hulteen came and met with the IDEA committee, and so I wanted to kind of just explain a little bit about our conversation after that meeting. It was super impactful for you to come and speak with our committee and let folks know that, this is a new thing for the city. And that committee specifically, I think, is a unique position to be a little bit more in the know or hopefully, recognize some things that might be coming down the pipe for us. And I think just having that connection, knowing that at any time, someone from our committee could reach out to me, to you, to Cole, just to kind of like say, hey, this is on our radar. This is something we're concerned about. And so just speaking from the IDEA committee, I know that you all visited all the committees or tried to hit as many as you could. I just know that it was very impactful for our committee members. And so just one more layer of us being really lucky to have this. So thank you.
Thank you. Counselor Larson.
And thank you, and I just making a comment that this has been quite a rewarding experience, kind of watching how something like this, something important like this, that the city should have been probably doing all along, start from ground zero and to now where we have people outside of the city, people that are familiar with how things run here, commenting to us that they think this is a good idea. This will help not just elevate the voice of the city in the state capitol, but also I think it will do a lot to sort of raise the profile of Wheat Ridge as probably the most important suburb in the whole Denver area.
Counselor Ohm.
Thank you, Mayor. The one question I had was on the special districts and the 90-day turnaround for affordable housing. It sounds like, I know that there's probably a lot of, it's not very predictable, but my question is what is the specific criteria as far as when the clock starts and stops, if it's going to referral agencies? Because it's not just the water and sewer, it could also be, say, fire department as well.
Yeah, I think that's a great question, and I could get in touch with our community development director and probably get you a better answer.
Fair
I wouldn't
enough.
be able to tell you the details on that.
Okay.
I think from my understanding is that that's sort of the problem, is that they aren't beholden to the same clock that we are. So that's where the struggles that we face are.
Thank you.
Counselor Wood.
Hit the wrong thing. Actually, I had a couple of questions, and this fascinates me. It's something I've been interested in for a long time, and I'm really glad for the work that you guys are doing, because I would agree with what Councilmember Larson said, that, you know, if we don't understand what's going on, then things happen and we don't have a role. And it's better to start there and have a voice. So you guys are wonderful to do this, I think. So a couple of questions I had is 3 to 5 bills are what you picked to focus on. And I can understand the level of effort that goes into looking at all of those bills. Can you foresee, or would there ever be a time, do you think, that something might come up that would necessitate looking at bills in addition to that? Or is it a strict 3 to 5 and we don't go beyond that?
Yeah, so the reason why we decided to focus on 3 to 5 was because we wanted to do this work with the existing staff resources that we have. And we felt like if we were to go too far beyond that, that we would start to get in a position where we might have to look at additional staffing, or maybe even hiring a consultant lobbyist, which is what some other cities do, in order to support that work. So the option to expand it exists, but there's a price tag. That's not to say, you know, if we were already at 5 bills and a really important bill comes down, we could always go to 6. We could make those things work. But to increase it substantially would require larger investment.
I have another in this. I can wait my turn too.
Go ahead.
So another question that I have is trying to understand the process. And so the one thing I haven't quite gotten a hold of is, does the committee have the autonomy to take the position to support or oppose? And I can understand the necessity of having that. So that's the question, I guess. Yeah.
Thank you, Councilmember Wood. That's a good question. And we actually, last year, as we ran into this issue,
Appreciate that.
the legislative session moves with or without us, and this committee meets every other week, and the time lag between a bill getting to the committee contemplating the position, taking a position, and then being able to prepare it for a packet to come to council for contemplation could be actually a full month, in which case we're losing important windows of influence. So we decided last year and got permission from our colleagues that when we take the vote in the committee, that is when we take the position. We will still bring the resolutions to council so that we're actually as a council voting. I think the resolution, whereas statements are really important for us to have clarity, both publicly and within the city, on why we're taking the positions that we are. But we did run in last year. We realized that to have to wait for the process for everything to come here was losing important windows of opportunity. So we are, with the adoption of the legislative agenda, we will be taking action on behalf of the city to take those positions. Does that answer the question?
Absolutely. And I do know that things move fast, and I'm glad that the process has been set up that way. I agree.
Thank you. Any other, Counselor Quinn?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. My experience with Local 111, IBW Local 111 in the legislative process has been not super extensive, but yeah, it comes quick. And we advocated, when we started, the theory was we had to be on the bus or we'd be under the bus. So I think we may not be able to decide how fast it goes or where it stops, but it's better to be on it. And I think this is a wonderful idea. And that our 3 colleagues here are going to have a lot of things to do, I think, when it comes to this, because you never know when these bills come up and how they're going to affect and how they change, and it gets a little crazy. So I really appreciate the idea to have this process that we're doing, and I agree, Councilor Holteen, that you guys need the ability to make decisions, knowing that we're behind you. So thanks, and I think this is a great idea.
Counselor Martell?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate, I was on the other side at the meeting when you guys came to the Cultural Commission, so I saw it from that side and I'm seeing it from this side. And I really do appreciate all the outreach that you guys did to the boards and commissions, and I really like that gathering of that input. And you mentioned, Cole, that there were some minor tweaks that came from that feedback. Can you give us some actual examples or some examples of the types of feedback you got from the boards and commissions? I'm really interested in how a different layer of our community members received this and what their thoughts were on the process.
Yeah, there's a couple small things, and I'm trying to recollect exactly what they were because again they were very minor. But I believe one example from the cultural committee was in regards to transportation and specifically the environment. So I think the language made it seem like the position was very strict, and they said, well, can we open it up a little bit so that there's more nuance taken so that we can decide on a bill based on how it impacts the environment and transportation. So it was really just very minor, super small things like that. I can provide you a more detailed, better list as a follow-up if you'd like.
And I'd love to see last year's, I know I've got a copy somewhere, but if you could provide a copy of last year to see the growth. And then kind of along the same lines, it sounds like the meeting with the IDEA committee was really productive, and the one with the Cultural Commission had a lot of great conversation. What kind of, what kind of sentiment or what kind of feedback, maybe not specifically, but positive, negative, confused, excited feedback do you remember getting from the different boards and commissions?
I think I might actually hand that question over to our chair, Councilor Hulteen of the Legislative Committee, who participated in all those meetings as well.
I know, I saw more of Cole than my own family for a couple of months. I really appreciate your time on that, Cole. I think a couple of things, and I think you saw this in the Cultural Commission. First of all, a lot of our boards and commissions have people who have worked in this professionally. And I think that was something, maybe that awareness didn't even exist until we brought this forward as a conversation. I would say without exception, each of the boards and commissions was really engaged, asked good questions. And I think that three things came out. One, there are some edits that we made based on that feedback. Two is like just that increased awareness that this is part of the work of the city, and that the being on a boards and commission is actually contributing to that value. People really leaned in and wanted to have the discussions. And then I think the latter thing, which I'm excited to see how it plays out this legislative session, is that we made first contact with a lot of our passionate volunteers who, should these bills come into alignment with our boards and commissions and we go back to them, I think we're just a stronger political voice as a city for the things that we care about. So I think there's a readiness factor that didn't exist a year ago. It's not something we're going to do every year. We were thinking every couple of years going to the boards and commissions because it's pretty labor intensive. But it was really valuable to do the first time.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Counselor Holton?
Sorry. I just want to make mention, so we answered Councilmember Wood's question about sort of our vote is the position taking on the bills. The way we harvest bills is basically CML has its box score of bills that it puts out, and we really take our bills from the CML identified bills. However, last legislative session, one of the bills we took a position on was not in the CML box score. So if there are ever bills that come across your radars, please reach out to us and let us know about them, so that there's kind of a first screening where Cole and I take a look at them and screen them for getting on the committee agenda. But I just want to make mention, like the one, I forget the exact bill, but they were trying to license people who sell vitamin supplements. And I found out about it because I was at not Whole Foods, oh my God, Natural Grocers. And the like guy bagging was like, gave me a flyer and he goes, they're trying to do this and it's really bad. And I was like, we are a grocery store sales tax community and this would have a huge impact on us. And it was not on CMLs. So I really encourage you, Dan, Councilmember Larson captured a couple good bills last year that got our attention. So should those come up, please feel free to send them to Cole and myself and we will take a look at those. And then I just want to thank, I think you mentioned this, Cole, but we are really working to integrate across staff as well. The process that existed before this committee was staff was kind of in a silo and things occasionally would come to council and there really wasn't as much of a system. So thanks to Cole's work, we're getting staff input on the impact of the city on the bills that we're contemplating. And staff is communicating with us around those priorities. I serve on the CML policy committee, and at the first meeting in December, we were already able to offer expertise as a jurisdiction in that meeting. So it's just, I think it's a really high impact level of integration in the legislative realm that we just haven't been doing. But I do want to encourage you guys, if bills come across your radar, check with us, and if they're not in our box score, then we can take a look at them and see if they fit the bill. No pun intended.
All right, any other questions or comments? Okay, seeing none, staff is asking for a consensus that they bring back the 2026 legislative agenda for adoption at a future council meeting. And we have a unanimous consensus on that. Fantastic. Look at you guys. All right, moving on. Number 3, staff reports.
Nothing here?
Nothing here. Okay. Do we have elected officials reports? Counselor Snow.
Just a couple of things. Tomorrow, Tuesday, January 6th, Counselor Martell and I have our first coffee/office hours in District 1. We're starting these for this year. We're going to do them twice a month on Tuesdays. 9 to 11 will be at Mountain Milk Coffee. So anyone can come by, chit chat, ask a question, ask us to find out more about something. It's just really a time for anyone to come and voice concerns, find out how things are going. We will be available. And we will have different dates or different locations throughout District 1 that we'll post that schedule soon. But we look forward to seeing everyone. And if you can't make it tomorrow, then we'll have another one in 2 weeks. So we hope to see you there. And then I just wanted to also mention a huge shout out to our Parks and Rec team. They are doing the Christmas tree recycling program again at Panorama Park and at Anderson Park. And I think that's available until the 1st of February. So if you want to recycle your tree, make sure all your ornaments are off. And your tree will then be turned into mulch, and then it will be in one of our parks. So it's kind of cool. So thanks to them, and just a Happy New Year to everyone, and Happy New Year to us as a council. I'm really looking forward to some good work this year. I value all of you very much, and so I'm looking forward to good work. Thanks.
Thank you. Councilors, Larson.
Thank you, Mayor. And at a previous meeting, members of council were asked to kind of take notes, mental, written down, or other kind of notes on the reopening of Wadsworth and our impressions. So I did that. And I'd like to just go over these very quickly. I would like, and I don't know if you saw in the today's Denver Post, there was an article that apparently been written, I'll bet it had been written a couple of weeks ago because it was not really up to date. But I would like to offer a hearty welcome to the removal of traffic cones on Wadsworth Boulevard. From now on, a routine trip to Safeway for me is no longer the motoring challenge that it has been for the past 4 years. But first, these CFI things can take a bit getting used to, such as always looking for the direction signs. When in a left turn lane, the traffic going the opposite direction is now on your right instead of always being on your left. Never make a right on red, ever, onto Wadsworth from either east or west, 44th or 38th. Wait for the green light. Never make a U-turn on Wads at either 44th or 38th, ever, at any time. Don't do it. My personal observations of some things on the Wadsworth project that may need attention. Timing of some of the traffic lights could use some fine tuning. For example, while attempting to turn left from southbound Wads into Safeway at 39th, my turn was blocked by northbound traffic, and the green turn arrow was way too short to allow traffic to clear. On eastbound 44th, past Wadsworth, the lane shift before the light advance may be too sharp, particularly during wet or icy conditions. Use caution. Landscaping will improve the visual experience once trees and bushes grow in. My concern is that the trees planted in the median will not survive for long, given the harsh conditions they are subject to. Finally, it was only a matter of a few weeks after installation of the 20-foot sound walls along the east side of Wads at 36 that someone decided to tag these structures with some sort of illegible spray-painted message. I noticed this unwelcome graffiti over the weekend, and rest assured, it will be removed shortly. Otherwise, a very welcome finale to the great Wadsworth reconstruction project is now in the books. I look forward to a safer, more dependable commute for the 40,000 daily motorists that traverse the busiest street in Wheat Ridge, and with the city's continued support, we can anticipate renewed interest in commercial activity along this vital transportation corridor. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Martell.
Along those lines, I just want to report back to Councilperson Hulteen that I did indeed drive one of the continuous flow intersection turns today for the first time, and it was a huge success. And it was crazy to drive on Wadsworth and have 3 lanes. I thought I was in the wrong lane, or I thought my lane was going to end, but it didn't. So it was great to experience it, and hopefully we'll start seeing some more economic growth around Wadsworth. Thank you. And Happy New Year, everyone.
Councilor Hulteen.
Thank you. Council Larson stole some of my thunder, but gets a gold star for the report. That was awesome. I have a lot of neighbors that are really glad the construction is formally done. I've gotten a lot of notes. A couple things I want to add to Councilmember Larson's report. One is if you are going eastbound on I-70 and you are getting onto Wadsworth, southbound Wadsworth, you now actually have a continuous lane. There were constantly like rear ends there, so that flow has really improved quite a bit. And I also just want to make note of the bike ped improvements are pretty significant. I was personally concerned that in the intersections of 38th and 44th, that you wouldn't be able to cross because of that continuous flow traffic pattern. But if you hit the ped activated system or a button, you will actually get a significantly timed opportunity to cross either on foot or on your bike. So that is in there, but it's not going to do it automatically. So I would, now that I'm back from vacation, I'd love to work with the city to do some messaging reminding bikes and peds that they need to push the button in order to get the type of signal crossing that they need to get across. But even the short time before I left on vacation and even driving home tonight, there are just more bike peds out too. People are actually using the wide pathways. So the street looks beautiful. I'm not missing the orange cones. Thank you to everyone who had the patience for the years of that construction. District 2 is glad it's in the rearview mirror, but we've also observed some small tweaks that hopefully we can work with Public Works and our contractor to resolve before we officially do this with our hands. But it's a nice way to start the new year.
Thank you. Councilor Wood.
All right, you guys, I had something I wanted to bring, but it's a little nerdy, and I thought maybe I would skip it, but it actually fits right in. Because when Councilmember Hulteen talked about bike ped and the improvements, that's what I really wanted to focus on, because the city has made such a concerted effort to do this, and sustainability overall in reading through the legislative agenda is almost top of the mark. So today in the Colorado Sun, there was an article that said, among U.S. states, Colorado ranked 26th in carbon emissions. So right at the midline for all the states. And we are so environmentally conscious in this state, I think that we would think that we wouldn't be that far up, you know, that we would be further down than that. But I think that and then they go on to say that most of Colorado's emissions come from energy production and consumption. But here in the Front Range, the lion's share, not that energy production isn't part of it, but the lion's share is from transportation. And most of that, 64% of that, at least in 2019, was from single occupancy vehicles. So everything we do to encourage bike ped and get people out of their cars speaks to that sustainability focus and what we all value. So it did fit in after all, and I thought I would go ahead and share it.
That's right up our alley. We love that around here. Counselor Quinn.
Well, thanks, Mr. Mayor. I want to wish everyone a happy new year, and I too am very excited about my first term and working with you all and moving forward. My Wadsworth experience has been very minimal. I don't really travel it. I didn't realize I did not travel Wadsworth that much until all of this. I just go down 38th and cross Wadsworth right there and keep going and drop off the dogs and go to work, and then I go home a different way. What I did notice though, and what I really like, is the controlled left turn. I mean, the have to with the continuous turn lane. But I'm hoping that we can, in the future, think about having those controlled left turns, you know, the arrow that lets you turn or doesn't let you turn in other intersections, because I think that will help traffic collisions and no right turn unless it tells you can. That's the one observation I made, is like, I think those have really improved the safety of the intersection. And I too noticed, I did use the left on 38th from South Wadsworth once, and you kind of wait a while. You have to just relax and listen to the sports radio a little bit longer and wait for your turn. But I'm really excited about it, and I'm hoping that those businesses reach out and use the programs that we're bringing forth to help them recuperate after that long 4 years. But I'm really excited about it. It's kind of neat to see it work finally.
All right. I think we got everybody. Oh, Counselor Wood, one more.
Just one more thing that I meant to say about the continuous flow intersections. Thank God for the signage. I mean, that saved me, and it's really good. And as long as you follow it, it does make sense. But thank goodness it is as good as it is. It's great.
Just remember, everybody, you can always turn around and come back the other way. Don't freak out and try to do something crazy that you're not supposed to. You can always go to the next intersection and turn around.
All right. Mr. Dahl.
If you don't mind, I wasn't quite on my game when it was time for staff reports, and something occurred to me that I did want to mention. We try always to bring ordinances to you in study session context before we just hit you with a first reading ordinance where you really just pass it on first reading. You have to talk about it and set it for hearing. And that was true, of course, for the amusement arcade ordinance tonight. But on December 22nd, the Colorado Supreme Court, I think, wanted to clear their docket for the year and rendered a decision to give everyone a Christmas present that we now had to respond to, which I have done so, but it resulted in an ordinance that wasn't ready for tonight's as a study session, but I wanted to give you just kind of a heads up that next Monday, you'll see it on first reading. And so now I get this chance to tell you about it so it isn't a complete surprise and you wonder what it's for. Now, the council action form will describe this to you, but there was a couple of Aurora cases. Defendants are, I think, theft and shoplifting, not huge crimes, but the penalty authority of municipal court judges, including ours, is $2,650 or 364 days in jail or both. That's the maximum. Hardly ever does the judge impose jail, and never anywhere near the maximums, but that is the maximum allowed. But that maximum is different than the state maximums for some misdemeanors and petty offenses that cover the same territory. It won't surprise you that the state statutes criminalize theft, right? There's a state statute against theft and a state statute on shoplifting. And for years, we thought, well, yeah, that's fine. If you're written into county court on a state offense, county court judges limited by the state statutes, it's not our problem. If you're written into municipal court, it's our ordinance, and it should be governed by our penalty requirements. Getting back to the colloquy I had Councilmember Larson about preemption and statewide control. But for whatever reason, the Colorado Supreme Court, we think it's not that well reasoned an opinion, but it was unanimous. One judge wasn't participating, and they said, no, we think if it's the identical conduct that's being criminalized here, that if you have a municipal offense with the potential of a fine or jail that's different or greater than the state maximums, then that's not good, and that's preempted. And so we, the Supreme Court, feel that you're stuck with when you're welcome to criminalize this conduct, cities, but when you do, and it's identical to a state offense, theft of property which between $300 and $500 or something like that, that's how they're written, then you're limited by the state maximums, which really the CML put out a memo, and so all the city attorneys are reacting to that because everybody's got this 2650 maximum fine in their city code. We have it in ours, this book right here, that a brand new version was given to me by the deputy city clerk, thank you, tonight. So that has resulted in the need to do an ordinance that says, look, where the conduct is identical under our code to state statute, then municipal judge are limited to these numbers. In practice, it's not going to change really the kinds of penalties that the judge imposes. But in those two cases, they were remanded because, and we don't want to have that, obviously, for our municipal offenses. So you'll see an ordinance on first reading that does this and clears that up. And I've spoken with the judge about it too, Judge Lucero. He's probably going to enter a standing order in the municipal court that says the same thing, and then we will have covered it both ways. If you have questions, once you've seen the council action form, please give me a ring, but this gives me a chance to avoid having to just spring this on you next, as the Supreme Court did on us, but now it's not sprung on you for next Monday. Thank you. Thanks for letting me intervene.
Questions for Mr. Dahl before we move on? All right, thank you, Mr. Dahl. To wrap it up tonight, I too have driven Wadsworth. I made sure I hit all 4 intersections there and made sure I turned left a few times. Seems to work really well. I've had no issues and it flows really well. Speaking of Wadsworth, the Wadsworth Grant Recovery Program for the businesses on Wadsworth, the deadline has been extended to January 31st for businesses to apply for that. So highly recommend they get on and visit Local Works. I think it's Local Works' website to check that out. They can also look at the Business District website. There's a link there as well. This Saturday, we have coffee with the mayor at Mountain Milk at 9 a.m. So it'll be 9 to 10:30, 11 o'clock-ish. Hope everybody can make it. We had a really productive one a month ago, and that flew by really fast that month. So I look forward to everybody seeing, again, Mountain Milk, 9 a.m. on Saturday. And then we have our next meeting here, January 12th, 6:30 p.m. It's our first meeting of the year. We'll be electing a new mayor pro tem, and we got a bunch of other stuff going on. So seeing nothing else, it is 7:24 for the clerk, and we will adjourn our study session.